Crash Bandicoot War!
This game by far is one of my most favorite Crash Bandicoot games they have ever made. In my opinion, it is the best one. I mean, think about it. You get to swim underneath water, you get to fly planes, you get to ride on a freaking motorcycle. You know, what else did you really want out of this game? You get to ride jet skis while you collect apples and one-ups along the way, use your various weapons, which you do acquire throughout the game, skills, and other techniques. But your basic attack is to just spin at the enemies and pretty much knock them out of the screen. The only thing is you got to be careful where you spin, because if you're planning on collecting one-ups via apples, well, you hit the apples while you're spinning and you're going to blow those off the screen too. As long as we're talking blowing things off the screen, they bring back the nitro blocks and the TNT blocks. You can step on the TNT blocks and you get 3 seconds worth of running time before they explode, and the nitro boxes, well, kaboom, you're dead if you touch those things. Now, as far as the worlds go, they pretty much change up everything that you've ever seen in any Crash Bandicoot before. Obviously, right here we have them swimming underneath water. This stage isn't particularly my favorite. I'm not exactly a big fan of swimming underneath the water, but thankfully the game has plenty other different stages, such as riding motorcycles or riding on your pet tiger using Crash Bandicoot's sister, Cuckoo, I think that's her name. And it's also pretty easy to spot when she does take over, because when you try to enter the level as Crash, he falls flat on his face, and then she jumps in the warp portal. And speaking of warp portal, this game does transport you to different periods in time, like you'll be in China, you'll be in Egypt, or even the future for that matter. So the game kind of holds up to its true name, saying that it's warp. You're really warping into a different world. And depending on what those different worlds are, you're either going to take over as Crash or Cuckoo as sister. And one thing I also noticed as well is she seems to really get what I like to call the mini-game stages, like the one racing through China, or the airplane stage, or the one where she's doing the jet skis. Really just monotonous races. I mean, Crash has got the one motorcycle one, but she seems to get all the other mini-game ones, so to speak. I don't know if they did that purposely, saying that because she's a little bit different, they're giving her the different stages, and they wanted to keep Crash more or less on your standard platforms. I'm not really sure why they did that. I was kind of hoping to see Crash on more of these mini-game stages, so to speak, as opposed to the just like racing one that he was really on. That has always struck me odd about this game, and that's the only aspect I really didn't like, was the fact that they toted him being, he's going to fly the plane, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and it's really not. It's really her half the time. Actually, it's more than her half the time doing those things than he does. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it because she's a girl. I'm just saying it, she doesn't seem to fit the context of the game, meaning that every single cutscene in the game doesn't have her listed at all. Like, they don't mention her at all as really being part of the game. She's just kind of there, as to where like all the other cutscenes are like Crash, 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 and they're like talking to Crash, but no one is directly talking to her. And I wouldn't mind the character as much if they integrated her into the story somewhat, but I mean, they really just kind of leave her hanging. I mean, if you think about it, she really has no context in the story whatsoever, other than just to be there to do these little mini games. But I mean, who really cares about the story in these games anyways? Well, me to a certain extent, I guess. But I mean, for the most part, no one really gives a crap about the story. It's all about just the mini games, the stages, just how differently they are. Are they playable? Every stage is playable. Very few glitches I have found. I found one glitch in the motorcycle stage where I couldn't go up a ramp after getting knocked off road, and then I flew off the ramp and just crashed into the ravine. I have that thing on here. I happen to record that. But other than really like a few graphical errors here and there, which what game doesn't have those anymore? You know, I didn't find anything major to where I say there was no way to complete this. But don't get me wrong, this game can get very challenging, especially if you're trying to collect the relics. Which, if you're trying to collect the relics, if you collect enough relics, you go to a secondary area, which you jump on your home screen, and then there's 5 other different worlds to 100% complete the game. And it's basically to collect the relics that are in different worlds. Like, if you ever wonder why you can't collect a certain relic, and you see it there, you go, this relic is nowhere. How the hell do I get this? You have to collect a certain number of relics to unlock an alternate world, which would go back into that world, but let's say it's on the other side of where you were, and then you have to go through that part of the stage and collect the relic. So, I mean, it can get kind of challenging to 100% complete the game. Is it beatable by a child? if they're really good at it, I can suppose. I mean, most of these games, you got to be playing them for quite a while to really, in order to actually beat it. Not just 100%, but I mean just to beat it in general. I had a tough time beating this. I mean, the end boss in the game, you have to make sure these two dudes are dueling. So you have to jump over their laser beam, try not to get hit from that. Then you have to, I think, take one of them out, and then you have to take out Cortex, or whatever his name is. You have to hit him, and then once you hit him 3 times in this hole, you defeat the game. Here's the one glitch I was talking about earlier, though. You see he goes onto the ramp, and it looks like all he's doing is wheelies, and I'm turning left, right, and eventually I get him to turn all the way to the right, and then he just flies off right into the hole. Here's just a quick example of one of the boss fights as well. This is the beginning boss fight. It's pretty simple. Just knock them out 3 times. They do throw different challenges at you, like this one you get lines at you, or another time you have to avoid spikes, or you have to avoid lasers, different things like that. This is just a quick example of pretty much one of the boss fights in the game. I just wanted to give that. Alright, well, that's going to do it for this review of Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. Enjoy Crash doing his little dance right there, and I'll see you next time.